Hey guys, welcome back to the discussion on SQL Server. In today's session, I'm going to discuss about the various SQL commands. In my previous videos, I have explained you about how we can install SQL Server and different types of options that we have in terms of data type constraints and how those constraints plays an important role in working with SQL Server. In these sessions, let's dive into some practical examples and let's dirty our hands with some queries and see how we can work with the different SQL commands. So when I talk about SQL commands, there are four different types of command categories that we use in SQL. It starts with data query language, then I'll talk about data definition language, the data manipulation language, and the data control language. Under each of the SQL commands, we have different types of commands that we execute. As you can see on the screen, for the data query language, we use the select command, the most powerful SQL command and the most frequently used SQL command that we have in SQL Server. The next is the data definition language, where we use commands like create, alter, and drop command. Now, the most important feature of the data definition language is that with the help of create, alter, or drop table command, we actually work on the structure of the table. And then we use the data manipulation language to work on the content of the table, like inserting a new value, updating a new value, or deleting an existing value. And then comes the data control language, where we work with the commands like grant and revoke. Now, this data control language actually focuses on giving authentication or authorization to the end users or the users of the SQL Server. So, let's see how we can work on some hands-on examples to understand these concepts of the various SQL commands. Now, for this example, what I have decided to work on a database, or we'll see how we can work on a database or how we can create a database and a table under that particular database. So during this particular example, I'll show you on a hands-on basis as how we can implement this kind of SQL commands. So let's see. Now, for this, what I can do, let me initialize my SQL Server Management Studio, which I have discussed in my previous sessions, where how to install it. Now, over here, what I will show you how we can work on an existing database and also how we can create a new database. So these are the first things that we're going to talk about in today's agenda. I'll talk about how we can create a database, a table under that particular database. We'll also see how we can use the commands like insert, update, alter table, alter column, how we can duplicate a database, how we can drop a database, taking a backup of a database, restoring a database, and also renaming a database. Now, while doing all these kinds of topic or discussing about all these kinds of topic, I'll show you some hands-on example for each of the topics that is stated over here. For this, let's go and let's initialize our SQL Server Management Studio and let's see how we can implement these agendas for today's session. So I have fired up my SQL Server Management Studio, and this is the login screen which I have initiated. And I'll click on connect over here, and my server has started, has initialized. The first thing that I want to do over here is to restore a database. Now, the database that I'm going to restore will be the database which I will be following throughout the discussion. I'll be working on two important databases. The first is AdventureWorks 2019 and the second one is an HR database. Now let me first restore the database and let me show you how we can restore a database once we install a SQL Server Management Studio. Now to restore a database, what we need a database copy. Now these are the copy of the database. You can see the AdventureWorks 2019 and the Human Resource database. Now database backup has a format of .bak. So you can see the format of this two databases is .bak. Now what you have to do, you have to copy these two database instance which we have, or the copy of the database, and I'll go to my C drive In C drive under program files, now if you can focus on this particular area, this path area, you have to go to the program files in Microsoft SQL Server folder. Under that folder, you have to click on the server name, the star server that I have created. Under the star folder, we have the MS SQL folder, and under this MS SQL folder, we'll have backup folder. In this backup folder, you have to paste these two database over here, and we have to go to the SQL Server Management Studio, and you have to right click on the database over here. Now when I right click on this database after initialize my SQL Server Management Studio, I'll get an option over here called Restore Database. When I click on Restore Database, this particular pop-up menu will come over on your screen, which have three categories: the general, the files, and the option. When you click on device, you have to click on this particular device. You'll get this option over here on these three dots. You click on this three dot, again you have to click on add, and you can see those two databases which I have copied in the backup folder. You can select the first database over here. Now remember one thing, you can restore one database at a time. You cannot restore all the database at one go. So to select the database over here, click on OK. Again click on OK. You can come to this database folder option, the destination option, and you can change this human resource database name into HR database. You can come to the file. In this particular page or in this particular step, cannot do any changes over here. Then you have to go to the option, and over here you can check mark this particular option, override the existing database, and you can click on OK. Now the moment you click on OK, you'll get a message over here on your screen as database HR has been restored successfully. And now to see the effect of this restore, you have to right click on this database folder, click on refresh, click on this plus sign, and you can see the database over here. In the same way, I'll restore the AdventureWorks 2019 database into the SQL Server Management Studio. I'll do a right click on the database, click on restore database, select device, click on add, select AdventureWorks 2019, click on OK, and then you have to come to the option, check mark this, click on OK, and you can see the AdventureWorks 2019 database is also restored successfully to the SQL Server Management Studio. Now that I have restored two databases, the HR database and the AdventureWorks database successfully, let me start working on the various SQL commands. The first thing that I'm going to do over here is to create a database. Now for that, I'll go into this new query option, click on it, and there will be a new, you can say a new window will come up, or a new screen will come up. Now this particular screen is the place where we write and execute all the SQL commands. So this will be the area where we'll be working in most of the time in our SQL discussion. So what I can do, I can write the first command to create a database, and it's very simple. I just need to write create database, and let me name the database name as D_tably. Now to execute this particular query which I have written, the output of this query will return me a database. Now there are few ways how we can execute a query. Either you can click on this execute option, or you can press F5, or the most common way that I do is you can select this particular query from your keyboard, press Ctrl E. I can see there's some error over here. Let me see what is the issue. Okay, so this particular name already exists. So let me give a database as Lucifer, and let me execute it, and you can see the command has successfully executed. So we have just created a database with the name Lucifer, and to see the effect of this particular database command, I can right click on the database, click on refresh, and you can see there is a database created D_Lucifer. Now that we have created a database, we have to tell the SQL Server Management Studio that we will be working on this particular database. Now if you can focus on this particular area, you can see at present it's showing us AdventureWorks 2019. So the current database which is in use is AdventureWorks 2019. But for us, we have to work on this particular database because I'm going to create a table under the D_Lucifer, and we'll also see how we can create a table and a column under the database over here. Now to do that, we have to tell SQL Server Management Studio that I want to use this particular database for creating a table under this. So again, we'll accomplish this particular task with a query. So I'll write use b underscore, and you can see the drop down the database name has already appeared. So we'll select it and again press Ctrl plus E, and now you can see the name has changed from AdventureWorks 2019 to D_Lucifer. Now that I have created a database and I have initialized that particular database, let us quickly create a table under this. So what I can do, I can write create table emp data. Now whenever we are working on creating a table using the standard SQL commands like create table, you can see these are all data definition language which is actually affecting the table structure. So we can see the create table emp data over here, and whenever we are creating a table over here, we have to always mention the first column of the table. Now how to do that? We'll open a bracket and we'll write the first column name as emp id and the column type will be, and we can close the bracket. And now if I execute this particular query, a table has been created under the database D_Lucifer, which has an empty column as emp id. Now I can do a right click over here on the database name, click on refresh, and now if I open this particular, expand this particular database, under the table folder you can see there is a table created, that is emp data. And under this emp data, if I expand the column folder, you can see the emp id column has been created. I can also see the table structure by using the right click option and selecting the design option from the drop down. And you can see the design of the table, where you can see the table name and the column structure or the column design of the table. So this is how we can use some of the data definition language or the SQL commands you can see you can use while creating. Now that we have created a table, let's insert some values inside that particular table. Now how to insert a value inside a table structure? Again, we'll use the SQL command that we have, the insert command, for inserting some values into the table. So for inserting, what I can do, I can write insert into table name, that is emp data. So I've specified the table name where I am to insert the data, and now I'll specify the column names in which I want to insert the values. So the column names can be inserted as emp id, comma, and also I can mention another column name over here within the bracket, emp name, and I can close the bracket. I can also drag the column name. So instead of writing the column name, what I can do, I can drag the emp id over here and I can release my mouse. And now I'll insert the values over here. For inserting the values, I'll write values within the bracket. For employee ID, I can give 112, and for the employee name, whenever you're using an employee name, means we are going to use a text value. So and that should be within the single quotes, and we can write as Williams within the single quote, and we can close the bracket. Okay, so I have not defined the column name, employee name over here. So let's remove this column name over here, and let us first execute this part of the value. And you can see that for employee ID, I have supplied a value using the insert command, which states over here is 112. And you can see as a result of this particular query, one row has been affected over here. Now to see the change in the table, how the data is showing in the table, we can write one more command as select star from the table name, that is employee data, and if I execute this query, we can see for employee ID, we can see the value 112, which we have just inserted using the insert command. So we can see that how we can use the SQL commands to manipulate the data, how we have used the SQL commands to create a database, create a table under that particular database using a column, and how we have used the insert statement to insert a value into the column. And then we have used the select statement to fetch the data from that particular table. So this is the type of queries that we write on a day-to-day work, and this is how we work on the table which is created under the SQL server. Now one interesting thing that I want to talk about over here is we have used the select star from EMP data. Now what we can see, this star actually symbolizes all the record. So whenever we use a star symbol along with a select statement, what it will do, it will select all the records from the table. So star over signifying means all the data from the table. So let's see how we can take up the next important command, that is our update command. Now if you consider the update command, this command is used for data manipulation. So it comes under the SQL command, that is data definite or data manipulation language. Now the scenario is I want to replace this 112 value that I had just inserted into the employee ID column with a different numerical value. Now in this example, through update command, I will talk about what is the best practices of writing a SQL query first, and second, how we use a data manipulation command to update any particular record in a table. So let's see how we can do that. So to update it, we can write update. I'll take the cursor to the next line. Let me increase the font size a bit. So we can write update table name, that is EMP data. And again, going to the next line, we use the set keyword. Set column name EMP ID equals to 100, and over here we'll use the where clause. So we'll just take some space where EMP ID is equals to 112. That's it, we are done. So what you can see, let us break this particular update statement or update query, and let's understand the things that we have used over here. The first is the data manipulation language, which is actually manipulating the table EMP data, where we are using a set keyword. Now set, what it does, it actually updates an existing value with a new value. Over here we are setting the EMP ID column where the column value is 100, and we are using a where clause. So where actually defines the condition. So over here the condition is where the EMP ID is equals to 112. Now if I execute this query, you can see that one row has been affected. And now again, if I execute the select statement, now this time you can see in place of 112, we are able to see the 100, the new value that we have updated. So this is how we use the update command to update a value in the table. So we can see that we have used a update statement to update the value. Now till now I was working on a table which was consisting of a integer value. Let's create a table where we can see how to work with text values. So I'll take a new query for this, and I will quickly write a command like create table name as table, create table t underscore, let's give me the name of the table as field product, and I can write the product name as a column, and let me define the data type of the column as varchar, and let me set the value of the varchar or the range of the varchar as 30. So what I have done, I've created a table product with a column that is product name, which is a data type of varchar. Now if you remember, I have discussed the data type in my last video where I have discussed the difference between varchar and char. Now what does varchar do? Varchar allocates a dynamic memory, whereas a char allocates a static memory. So now if I select this particular statement and if I execute it, you can see the command has been successfully executed over here. And now if I refresh the database Lucifer over here, and on the table section, I can see one more table has been created. Now this time, this table consists of a text value. Let us see how we can insert values in this particular table, which are text in data type. For that, what I will write? Insert into table name, that is T underscore product. I'll define the column over here, that is P underscore name. Close the bracket, go to the next line, and you can write values. Now this time, in order to insert the text value, we'll be using a double or single quote. So I'll write pro underscore 1 or pro 1 over here, and I'll close the bracket. Now what I can do, I can select this particular statement, press Ctrl E over here, and again I'll use the select statement to see whether I was able to successfully insert the value under the T underscore product table or not. So I'll write select start from the table name, and over here the table name is product. I can select this particular statement, I can execute it, and you can see that I have successfully created a table which can hold text value. And one important takeaway from this example is you have to always mention the text value within single quotes. And that's a very important thing that you should be keeping in mind. Whenever dealing with text values, you should always use it within the single quotes. The next example that I'm going to talk about is how we can alter a database. Now, one important thing that we need to keep in mind altering a database is that we cannot alter a database which is currently in use. So, if I want to alter the database name as D underscore Lucifer, we cannot do that because D underscore Lucifer is currently in use. We can only alter the name of a database where the database is not in use. Let's see how we can do that. What I can do, I can come to the next line and I can write alter. So, I'm again using one more SQL command over here. Alter database. Let me give the name of the database as Adventure Work 2019. So I can drag this database name over here, and we can write as modify name as equal to, let me give it as Adventure Work 2019. And if I select this particular command, if I execute it, you can see the database name has been changed. Now to see the effect, what I have to do, I have to come and I have to refresh this database folder over here. And you can see the name of Adventure Works 2019 has been changed into ADVWorks underscore 2019. So this is how we can use another data manipulation command or you can say statement under the SQL command, which can be used for altering or modifying the database name. The next example that I'm going to talk about is how we can alter a table. So we have seen how we can alter a database, right? Now to alter the table, I'll go back to my previous example of employee data and I'll write a command over here as alter table name. So I'll write the table name over here as EMP data. Or what I can do, I can bring the table name from here. Now what I want to insert a new column into this particular table as a part of my alteration. And that particular column should have a special feature. Now what is that particular special feature? That any data that comes into that particular column should have an auto increment. Now, for example, the scenario is, for example, we have an employee ID 100, and now if I insert a column as, so we'll use an add pro ID as a new column, and the data type should be int over here. Now this particular pro ID column, whose data type is int, I want that any data that comes into this particular column, pro ID, should have an increment of 5 each time a new data is inserted. If the first data is 1, the next data should be an increment of 5, that is 6. Now how we can achieve this kind of scenarios? while altering a table. So we can use a word called, we can use a clause called identity. Now how to write that? We'll simply write identity, and within bracket I'll define the first initial value, that is 1, and second initial value as an increment value, and you can close it. And now if I execute this particular statement, you can see this command has been successfully inserted. And now if I use the select statement again, you can see beside employee ID, the pro ID column has been inserted and the value is 1. And next time if I insert another value, for example, if I repeat this particular, copy this query, and this time I insert 113 as employee ID, and if I execute this query, and again if I execute the select statement, you can see as a part of this identity command keyword that I have used over here, the next employee ID is 113, against which the product ID is 6. So this identity actually is adding an increment value, where the value starts from 1. Each time a new value is inserted, the increment will be in terms of 6. Now again if I insert a new value to this particular table, like 114, now if I execute it, and again if I execute the select statement, you can see 6 plus 5, 11. Now this is how we can alter a table, but I have showed you an example with a real life scenario where we want a product ID to be allocated to each of the employee ID with the increment of 5. The next example that I'm going to talk about is how we can alter a column. For that, let me go back to my previous example where I have defined a table T underscore product with a column name as P name varchar, whose range of value is 30. Now we have seen how we can alter a database, we have seen how we can alter a table, but now we will see how we can alter a column in a table. Now to alter a column, let's discuss a scenario. What I want for this particular table, T underscore product, the column name P underscore name, which data type is varchar, I want to reduce the value from 30 to 12. So instead of defining the varchar range as 30, I want to reduce it to 12. So over here what I'm doing, I'm actually altering the column over here. So what I can do for that, I can write a simple query as alter table name. I can bring a table name from here. Again, I'll come to the next line and I'll write alter column name. So let me bring a column name over here as P underscore name, or I can drag column name from here. So I can write column name over here. I can write P underscore name, and this time the varchar, I'll define it as 12, and I can close it. But before I execute this particular statement, let us first see what is the actual value of varchar over here. We can see the P name underscore name. P underscore name is having a varchar value as 30. So what I want, once I execute this particular statement, it will reduce to 12. So I can select this particular statement, press Ctrl E, and you can see the command was successfully executed. And now, if I refresh this particular table, and if I come to the column, you can see the varchar value has reduced to 12 from 30. So this is how we can alter a column in a table. So we have started from altering the database, the table, and the column, and we can alter the column to the detail of modifying the data type of any column by using the alter. The next topic that I'm going to talk about is how we can create a duplicate database. Very interesting topic. To create a duplicate database, what I can do, I can just come to this particular database, and what I want to create a database, a duplicate of a database called D underscore Lucifer. So what I can do, I can come to this new database, right click on this database folder, select new database option over here, and let me give the name as D underscore Lucifer underscore copy, and I click OK. Now the moment I click OK, you can see a copy of a database has been created. Now that the copy is created, the next thing is that I want to copy all the tables and data from this D underscore Lucifer from D underscore Lucifer to D underscore Lucifer underscore copy. For that, I'll do a right click in the duplicate database, that is D underscore Lucifer underscore copy. Go to task option, and over here I'll select the import data option. Now this particular wizard will open of import and export wizard. I'll click on next, and from here I have to select the option that is SQL Server Native Client 11.0. In the server name, I have to give the name of the server as MSI star /*. You can see the same server name over here. In the authentication, you can select the level of authentication that you have given while installing the SQL Server. From the database option, I have to select the source database, that is D_Lucifer. I'll click on next, and again I have to choose the destination database. So I'll again select the destination. For this, I'll select the SQL Server native client, and you can see the server name has been automatically updated for the destination database. And you can see over here the destination database is D_Lucifer_copy. And again, you can click on next. In this particular section, we'll keep the copy data from one or more table or views option as checked. And then we'll click on next. And I have to select the data or the table which are available in the source database. And you can see there are two tables, EMP_data and T_product available in the source database. So you can select it, click on next, keep this screen as it is, no changes required for this particular save and run package screen. Click on next, no changes required over here also, and then you can click on finish to initialize the process. And you can see there are three rows from the EMP data and one row from the T_product has been successfully imported from the source database to the destination database. You can click on close. Now if I write a small query over here, let me take a new query over here and let me select the copy database from here. And if I write a select statement as select start from D_Lucifer_copy, and if I execute it, okay, so I have to write select EMP from EMP data. So I've given the database name, but mistake, it's fine. So we have to give the table name over here. And if I select the table name, and you can see the table EMP data is showing us all the data from the database called D_Lucifer_copy. So this is how we can copy a duplicate, or we can create a duplicate of a database. Now there can be various reasons for duplicating a database, maybe due to security issues or maybe taking a backup of a database. But this is how we we create a duplicate database and we input all the required tables and data from the source database to the destination database. The next example that I'm going to talk about is how we can drop a data. Now, again, we cannot drop a database which is in use. So over here we can see D_Lucifer_copy is in use. So we cannot drop this database. Now, for example, if I select another database like D_Lucifer, and now if I drop the database as drop database D_Lucifer_copy, and if I execute this statement, you can see the command has been successfully executed. And now if I refresh the database folder, you can see the D_Lucifer_copy has been dropped from the server. So this is how we can drop a database from a server. So keep one thing in mind, that you cannot drop a database which is in use. So you have to always drop a database. You can always drop a database which is not currently used for querying your request. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is how to take a backup. So I have shown you how we can restore a database. I have shown you how we can drop a database. Now I'll show you how we can take a backup of a database. For example, if I want to take a backup of this particular D_Lucifer, I'll do a right click over here, go to task, select backup option over here. From here, I'll select the database as an option. We have three options over here: general, media options, and backup option. I'll select the database option over here and I'll keep the database type as full. This is the path where the backup will be stored. So you can see in the backup folder, the same folder from where we have restored the database, the backup of the database will also be added to that particular folder itself. From the media option, I will change the overwrite media to overwrite all existing backup sets. So whatever backup will be taken, the recent changes will override the old changes and a fresh copy of the backup will be stored. From the backup option, I'll not change anything from over here and I'll click on OK. And you can see the backup underscore the data D_Lucifer database has been successfully stored. Now to see the changes, we'll go back to the backup folder in our C drive. And you can see the D_Lucifer.bak format has been restored or backed up into the backup folder. So you can go to this particular path and you can check whether your file has been properly backed up or not. So this is how we take a backup of a database. So this is how we can work on some of the aspects of SQL Server. In today's session, I have shown you how we can use some of the SQL Server commands. Now, for my next video, I'll be discussing each of the SQL command in details, and I will start the discussion with select statement. Now, I'll show you a good amount of hands-on examples as the various uses of select statement in SQL Server. I hope you have learned and enjoyed this particular video. Thank you for watching this video, guys.